Okay, so have you for that? Is the government is here? Is the government is here?
Um,
Sorry.
can you please repeat?
Okay. Is the government here?
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, we are here.
For opposition?
Yes, we are here.
Have you run the motion? Please, if you have run the motion, please, uh, please text in chat box. Okay, for the opposition. Okay, thank you. May I reconfirm that government prefer motion one and veto motion three? May I reconfirm that the government side prefer motion one and veto motion three?
Yes.
Okay. May I reconfirm that opposition prefer motion three and veto motion two?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, so we will debate on motion one. Is it correct? Okay. Then I will separate you into breakout room. Uh, The debate will start in 2 minutes. Is there educators here?
Here.
Can I have your name?
My name is Shahinda, Syahindah, and the other one would be Ammar, Ammar. There will be only 2 adjudicators this round.
Okay. Okay, thank you, educators. Uh, good. Okay. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. So before we start the debate, I would like to ask all the debaters to state your name and your position in the chat box, starting from government side. So, can can the government side state your name and position? Okay, thank you for government. Next, for the opposition side. Okay, thank you for thank you for the opposition side. All right, the House will come to order. I am pleased to welcome you all to this second round of special edition of the Pro-Chancellors Cup Debate Championship 2025 University Science Islam Malaysia. Allow me to reiterate Allow me to reiterate that today's motion is this House would significantly increase funding for vocational schools and the expense of low performing universities. I am Muhammad Haziq and I will be the speaker and the timekeeper for this room. Now I will state the rule and order for this championship. Each debater will have 7 minutes to deliver his or her speech. The bell will ring once to indicate the first minute has ended and points of information may be given. The bell will ring once after the 6 minute mark and will ring twice at the end of the 7 minute speech. I would like to remind the members of the floor they may only raise points of information in the constructive speech and only after the first minute and before the last minute of speech. You may turn on your mic to state your request for POI. Also, please make sure that your internet connection is stable and your voice is audible. Is there any inquiries? Okay. Before we start, may I ask for the all the debaters to turn on your camera? Okay, thank you for the all the debaters. Okay, now let me introduce our members for today. We have for the government side, we have Miss Putri for Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, which is Miss Wani, and Miss Shafiqah as Government Whip. For opposition side, leader of opposition is Mr. Rozi, Deputy Leader of Opposition Miss Myra, and lastly, opposition whip is Mr. Kashfu. Joining us today is also our educators, which is Mr. Amar and Miss Shahinda. Okay, with that, I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver his speech. Here.
Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Members of the hall, imagine a world where the money keep being fun, but the outcome is nowhere to be found. We on the government side, we strongly support this motion, which is that this house significantly increase funding for vocational school at the expense of low performing university. So our stand is on the government bench, we believe that the role of education funding is to maximize social and economic benefits. And low performing universities are failing on this purpose. Year by year, they keep on producing graduates who struggle in the job market. On the other hand, vocational schools producing higher employability and direct contribution to industries that are essential for our country's growth. Therefore, our stance is that the government should significantly increase funding for vocational schools by reallocating resources away from low-performing universities. Low-performing universities keep on producing graduates with low employability and fail to equip the students with the marketable skills even with the funded money from the government. At the end of the day, these students often end up underemployed or unemployed. This leads to waste, resource, and growing frustrations among the young people. At the same time, job industry are facing a serious shortage of skilled workers like construction, healthcare, IT, and green technology. These kind of jobs are crucial for national development. Where we get the labor workers, and yes, they are coming from the vocational schools. So for the status quo right now, we are in a shortage in skilled technical workers, which is vocational schools who will usually remain underfunded or undervalued. They lack of modern equipment, industry partnership, and the capacity to train the next generation of skilled worker. Vocational school year by year keep producing quality products but not in a large scale. Why? Due to the short funding. And here we can see which one are more beneficial to our country. So our mechanism is simple. Before we take the funding away from them, we will give them like a warning to ask them to try and bring their performance to a certain level, to a KPI by two aspects, which is GPS, which is the grade point system, and also curriculum aspect. And if they fail to meet this KPI stated by the government in 5 years, those funded would be allocated to vocational school instead. Okay, let's move on to my first argument, which is to ensure economic efficiency and return of investment. So why does reallocate these expenses from low-performing universities to a vocational school could help to ensure economic efficiency and return of investment? Because we need to stop wasting the taxpayer money. Why it is a waste of taxpayer money? I'm sorry. Because the government money spent on the low performing universities despite the poor graduate outcome. And it is a waste of limited national resources. Why does it is called a waste of money? This is because these low performing universities fail to produce high quality graduate and drain public resource without any economic payoff. Therefore, I'm sorry. Therefore, the solution is we've been given those warnings and those 5 years, which is a long time to be considered, we would cut the fund from those low performing universities that has been consistently performed below a set benchmark and redirect it to a vocational training centers. Therefore, this would cost the taxpayer money will be funded to a vocational school that brings a measurable result. Yes?
My question is, how can we standardize every CGPA in every university? Because every university have a different uh, syllabus and different kind of studies for CGPA. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. But that would be answered by my third speaker. Therefore, the taxpayer money again should be fund education that brings measurable unit that benefits our country. So why does we need an ensuring economic efficiency and return on investment? Why does this is important? Because of the outcomes. So what is the outcomes if these funded, if these funds are reallocated from low performing universities to vocational school? First, the taxpayer would get a better value for money. Universities are incentivized to improve themselves to become a highly performing universities in order to get funded. And also, these will cause the vocational schools gain resources to meet growing demand. This will lead to a more efficient, accountable education system for our country. Therefore, I would like to repeat again that we, as the government, strongly support this motion that this House significantly increase funding for vocational schools at the expense of low-performing university, because of the best case scenario is that vocational school receive significant funding and can contribute to national growth, while if this motion is rejected, it will cause some low-performing universities may be forced to shut down, reducing access for students who want academic pathways. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you to the Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Leader of Opposition to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
I will start my speech in where is the timer? I'm sorry, where's the timer?
So, you can just okay, you can start.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. A very good afternoon to the Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, and members of the House. Today we are debating the motion. This House would significantly increase funding for vocational schools at the expenses of low-performing universities. As the first speaker of the opposition, I stand firmly against this motion. Why? Because it is based on a false choice, a harmful misunderstanding of what so-called low-performing universities really are, and dangerously short-sighted vision of our nature future. Firstly, before I come into my points, I would rebut the point given by the Prime Minister of the government team, which is low performing universities fail to produce high quality graduates. Actually, universities often perform poorly because they are already unfunded. Less money means fewer facilities, less access to research, and lower student support. Cutting their fundings further doesn't fix the problem. Make it worse. You don't cure a weak patient by starving them, right? So, that is all my rebut. I would go on my point, which is I would focus on the three aspects, which is performance is contextual, not absolute, uh, regional and social impact, and lastly, reform and don't abandon. First and foremost, first and foremost, instead of abandoning these universities, we should reform them. With targeted funding, modernized teaching and support programs, they can rise in quality and continue serving communities that need them most. If we cut them off, we don't just lose institutions, we lost the doctors, teachers, and local leaders we could have produced. So let us be clear. I'm sorry. Many universities called low performing are in rural or marginalized areas, serving first generation students, low income families, and communities that cannot access like institutions. Their challenges are not sign of failure, they are sign of underfunding, neglect, and systematic inequality. Now, what happens if we cut their funding further? We don't solve their problem, we make it worse. We create a vicious cycle, fewer resources, born into lower quality teaching, into a fewer graduates, and even less funding. These universities will collapse, and with them, the hopes of entire communities. Let me ask you, is it fair to punish students from poor towns simply because their university doesn't rank as highly as those in wealthy cities? Of course not. Instead of abandoning them, we should reform them. Targeted funding for teaching trainings, modernize circular partnership with industry. These can turn struggling universities into engines of growth. Cutting them off only entrenches inequality. Second, let's look at the bigger picture. The proposition celebrates the vocational schools as the answer to immediate labor market needs. And yes, vocational schools are vital, but they are not enough. Why? Because vocational training teaches us knowledge. Universities create that knowledge in the first place. Okay? Do you understand? Think about medicine. A nurse trained in a vocational students in the vocational schools depends on treatments uh, discovered by university researchers. A constructor workers relies on safety codes and designs developed by universities engineers. And IT technicians works with technologies born in university laboratories. Without universities, vocational schools eventually stagnate because there is no new knowledge to apply. Defunding universities is not just unfair, it is economically short-sighted. Universities are the backbone of natural progress. They produce doctors, teachers, scientists, innovators. They generate the research that keeps industry alive. If we weaken them, we weaken the very foundation of vocational training itself. Okay? So I ask you, do we need a society that only trains workers for today's jobs, or one that prepares leaders and innovators for tomorrow's challenges? The opposition believe that we need both, not one at the cost of the others. And the third one is, let's consider the long-term economic consequences. The proposition's plan is a quick fix. Fund vocational schools now, meet labor shortages now, but what about the future? History shows us that the nation that dominate globally are those that invest in higher education and researches. South Korea transformed from poverty to prosperity by investing heavily in universities and innovation. Germany's dual system worked not because it abandoned universities, but because it balanced vocational training with a strong higher education. The United States also leads in technology because of its first world-class universities. So, right here, ladies and gentlemen, the proposition one is uh, to believe this is a choice between two paths, conventional schools or university. But that is false dichotomy. The truth is, we need universities stronger than vocational schools. Labeling university as low performing should not be the sentence. It should be a call to reform and uplift. Defunding them abandons the most vulnerable students and weaken our nation's future. So let us be clear. The opposition is not against the vocational education. We are against destroying university to achieve it. Because a society without university is a society without an innovation, without independence, and without a future. And this is why we, on the opposition bench, strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you to the thank you to the leader of opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes. Now I would like to call upon Deputy Prime Minister to, to deliver her speech. We shall now we shall now hear the speech from the Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Judges, let us be clear and realistic. We are aware that nowadays degree holders still are unemployed, not because there are no jobs out there, but because the companies nowadays are looking for skilled workers. And that is why we on the government would stand on to this motion that we believe the role of education to reallocate the funding from the low performing universities to vocational schools are needed. Well, but before that, I'll be doing three things today. The first, I'll be rebutting what the leader of opposition have said. Secondly, I'll be extending the argument made by my first speaker. And thirdly, I'll be highlighting the key points of the argument for our today's motion that we stand. The first one, my first speaker mentioned that, the first one, the leader of opposition have stated that when there's low funding, they are actually making the low performing university more worse. And they said that if we cut the funding, they could not produce quality. They could actually produce quality workers. As if you are trying to say that vocational schools did not produce that, because we from our side believe that vocational schools also provide the same quality of students and graduates, just like the low performing universities. So why are we wasting our money to give funding to these low performing universities? Even if you might say that why are we cutting this off? We are not cutting. We are putting the limit. We put the GPS. They have to meet the GPS, the grade point system, in 5 years. And if they did not meet that, we are going to reallocate the funding to the vocational school. So we are actually focusing on how we are going to help the economy so that we can make sure that our economy are stable amidst this current economy instability. They also stated that we did not solve the problem and we actually make the problem worse because there will be low resources, low graduates. But they also stated that they also stated about vocational actually the teach does not teach. I'm sorry, vocational teach knowledge, but they say that university is the one that provide the knowledge. But I think it's just the same. Let's say it's vocational school or low performing university, we have the same education, right? So if students actually strive towards it, we believe that they actually would have the same outcome. So when they have the same outcome, why would we waste the money at the end of the day? Why would we waste the money to give it to low performing universities that would actually take it for granted? They might actually take it for granted because when we give the money, they just stay at the same level. They are not upgrading their university ranking. So that is the rebuttals for the first leader of opposition. Now I'll be extending the argument by my first speaker. So my first speaker stated that nowadays we keep producing graduates that have low capabilities even after getting funded by government. So that is what I want to say. So job industry is looking for serious workers so that we can contribute to the national development. Means we can contribute to the higher employment rates. We can contribute to also boosting the economy. Okay, and this actually relates to my first argument, which is we are standing on to this motion to reduce the youth and employment unemployment and job mismatch. Nowadays, market demand for a labor job. So what is the root problem here? We are tackling the root problem. Thousands of young graduates nowadays, they thousands of young graduates actually have no job because they are from the low performing university with degrees that does not meet the industry needs. We have to meet them so that we have to meet the what does our industry needs so that the job would not mismatch. The companies always complain on shortage of skilled workers like technician, mechanicals, like so. For example, UTP is one of the high performing universities that actually are more interested by the working companies to take these graduates from UTP. So this shows how the market demand nowadays, this proof that. So why this solution? We are trying to reallocate the money to vocational programs that could actually directly prepare the young people for the jobs available in market. So why our solution is good? Because when we increase the fund, we are increasing the facilities so that we can hire more experienced trainers and we can create a good job state. So what is the outcome? So students graduate with employable skills. We also cater to the economy because the youth unemployment rate can be reduced. We can also improve the industry's productivity and reduce the reliance on foreign workers so that we would not waste it. So on opposition side, they might produce jobless graduates. But on our side, we try to create a system to improve that where education will lead to real job. So next, I'll be giving the second argument, which is enhanced national productivity. When everyone performs, the root problem here is that nowadays workforce is not producing at its full potential. What does this mean? This means when there are many graduates from low performing university, they did not meet the requirement, right? They actually lack practical skills. So industries might spend extra time and money retraining them. They have to spend the money to retrain them to produce more good workers. So we are tackling the urgency issues here to solve the shortage of skilled workers in critical sectors. For example, to reduce the project completion. And at the end of the day, this will overall actually help to also reduce the dependency on foreign labor. We are also helping this so that our country can actually does not need to struggle to compete globally. So why this solution? We are reallocating this funding to vocational schools so that at the end of the day, the outcome is that our world can produce more employers that get job-ready workers so that we does not need more cost to retrain them back. And we also can increase the productivity and increase the economical stability and help the society so that everyone could improve their job searching. And to compare is that opposition might waste the funding on degrees that don't actually add economic values. Okay, but we on government have invest to direct economic output so that we can foster a generation with a good employers and help to improve our economy, which will result in building a well-developed country. Thank you. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you to the Deputy Prime of this Deputy of Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes. Before before I call the Deputy Leader of Opposition, any any request of your eyes, you can just open your mic to request. So now I would like to call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
Where is the timer? Okay.
Okay, you can start now.
I will start. Three, two, one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A very good morning to the honorable judges and members of the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, today I will demonstrate why our case is better. Cutting lower performing university funding may reduce social mobility prospects and harm the broader economy by weakening innovation and advanced education. But before that, let me do rebuttal from the government side. The Prime Minister Speaker argued that vocational is better than low performing university. However, they fail to acknowledge that that vocational schools do excel in quickly preparing students for specific jobs, but universities serve a wider range of educational and professional needs. And instead presented a case that relies on a false assumption that low-performing universities serve students who might not excel in a lower university skill set but can benefit from a supportive, broader learning environment to improve and succeed academically and professionally. Back to my argument. Impact of university funding on social mobility. Lower performing universities often serve a crucial role in providing access to higher education for students from disadvantaged or lower income backgrounds. Research shows that these universities significantly contribute to raising social mobility by enabling students who may not have had the educational preparation or resources to attend more selective institutions to earn degrees and improve their economic prospects. For example, regional public universities in the US have been found to casually increase the fraction of local residents with college degrees as well as employment and income outcomes, especially among children. Access to higher education locally, allowing individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds to achieve upward social mobility. Cutting funding for these institutions could drastically reduce opportunities for these students to improve their socio-economic status. Universities drive research. In addition, my second point, universities drive research, innovation, and long-term economic growth. Universities are not only places for vocational training but also hub for research, innovation, and the development of critical thinking. These functions are essential for economic growth and societal advancement beyond immediate job skills. While vocational schools focus on specific skills training, universities produce graduates with broad knowledge and problem-solving abilities crucial for adapting to technological changes and evolving industries over time. Reducing university funding risks undermining this broader contribution. Furthermore, university contribute to professional field require deep theoretical understanding such as medicine, engineering, law science, even they are from a lower even from their lower performing university, which are indispensable in modern economics. This dividing funds from universities to vocational schools could have negative long-term economic consequences by weakening fundamental research and innovation capabilities. So how do you like from the government side? So from the government side, they will only focus for vocational students that ready for today.
Vocational students are ready for today's works only.
Sorry, from the government side, they will focus for vocational students. They are ready for today. They are only ready for today's work, not for the future. Since they only learn the skill for today specific market, not for further. So, like, okay, maybe I will do some rebuttal from the
DPM. Students from low university have high unemployment rate. But we must understand this is not only problem from low performing universities. Low performing universities only is a universal problem for all university graduate. Okay. So this show that the opposition side case is better for this motion. That's all.
Thank you to the thank you to the deputy of the position for the speech. The speaker spoke for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Now I would like to call upon Government Whip to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
Hello, am I audible? Am I audible again?
Yes.
I haven't yet. Okay. So I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Under the motion that this House would significantly increase funding for vocational school at the expense of low-performing university. So on our side, we already mentioned to you how we would implement this situation. So as per mentioned by my first speaker earlier, we mentioned that first we will give some time as we mentioned 5 years for them to actually meet the specific requirement to have the same to continue with the allocation at expenses. But if they fail to meet the standard and so on, they will have to shift the allocation toward vocational schools. Okay, so to make it clear, we do not want to demolish universities at all. We believe that university is also very important in this situation. But today, in today's debate, we are focusing on low performing university that usually have higher dropout rates, have no research impact, and so on, to be able to have the same allocation of money as higher performing university. Okay, so in this world, we have both we have low performing university and at the same time we have higher performing university. So what makes them different? The expenses are still the same. So why can't the low performing university have the same result and a product coming from the higher performing university? So that is why today we bring up this debate to shift the allocation of expenses towards vocational school, which in today's market is much more demanding of higher skilled labor jobs. Okay, so I will first start the rebuttals, right? So I will rebut what are the rebuttals coming from their side, and also I will rebut their main arguments. So first rebuttal coming from their side, they mentioned that um they mentioned that this is not that at university will produce a broader range of knowledge instead of in vocational education narrowing the specific skills and jobs and so on. To answer that question, that is why we need to allocate more funding towards vocational school. One thing about vocational school is that now in today's world, we see that the industry and economy is gradually evolving, is ever evolving industry, right? And so it is better to actually okay. So sorry. Okay. While
this okay, wider broad of knowledge, for example. While this is true, only high performing university deliver that, but low producing one don't produce innovation, which will instead waste money and time. So the redirection of allocation doesn't hit best universities in this case, but actually strengthen the whole system. Okay, so moving on to the second rebuttal, they mentioned about university produces idea programs for skilled user, skilled labor to use. So to rebut that idea, if you produce a lot of programs, ideas from university, but we have shortages of skilled labor jobs, so who will use the program and ideas coming from the university? So that is why on our side we believe that the shifting the allocation towards the vocational is much more beneficial for our nation as a whole. As per mentioned, okay. So to answer again, another point rebutting the point coming from their side, they mentioned about to increase social mobility, right? So social mobility usually comes from lower income background. So lower income background, by having university, it will increase to raise their social mobility. Okay, so in this case, we didn't shut down the opportunity for disadvantaged youth who aspire education, for example. But we're not limiting them, but instead we give them something more valuable, something more meaningful. For example, okay, imagine, right? Okay, they go to university that are low performing, and then the degree that they got will lead them to nowhere. They will remain unemployed and so on. So instead of focusing more on those low performing university, allocate more funding on the vocational school where these youth of an lower income background youth can actually go to vocational instead, which are mentioned by my speakers earlier, much more reduced in fee and also fee and so on. And so this will in return will give them jobs, more meaningful life, and also they not drown in debt. Okay, so it becomes when you say that you to okay, it's actually exploitative to actually put them in a situation where they lead them nowhere. And last, they mentioned about innovation and long-term economic growth, right? So for innovation, innovation is actually something that a threat for everywhere, you can say. So for university, even for university graduates, right? So we have what so the thing that matters here is what is building resilient education system, so that matches the current market. In this case, we can say that vocational adapts more flexible compared to university, which very inflexible in changing the curricula and so on. So it's better to find vocational school that can lead to a better outcome for our national growth. Okay, so now let's take a look at the one clash of today's debate. We have economic efficiency, for example. So they mentioned about long-term economic growth, but we fail to see where their long-term economic growth is going. But instead, on our side, we do know that there are higher demand market for higher skilled jobs, and so that is why we need to allocate more fund towards them. And so for these clashes, which do you prefer? You prioritize the efficiency or education value that didn't actually bring nowhere, especially for low performing university, mind you, that will lead to nothing for underperforming underprivileged students, for example. Okay, so the best thing that could happen if this motion stands is that vocational school will receive insignificant funding and can contribute to national growth, which in your world we fail to see that because they've forced to stop the vocational school growth development. So worst case scenario, that some low perform can be forced to be shut down, so reducing to access for students who want academic pathway. For the worst case scenario that could happen if this motion false. Okay, false. Okay, that's I rest my case.
Thank, thank you to the thank you to the government week for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Now I would like to call upon op- opposition whip to deliver his speech. The floor is yours. Hear, hear.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. I will start my speech in 3 2 1. So, vocational schools, we all know. You want to repair a car, go repair a car. You want to cook, go culinary. It's a very specific method, very specific skills. As we all know, not people can do theoretical work. Not people can memorize anything. They more to hands-on. Yes, we on the opposite side. We also we accept that. But first and foremost, I'm a speaker member of the house. What this debate has shown is a fundamental choice. Do we sacrifice low university for the sake of working in schools? Or do we build an educational system that uplift both? Government choose the easy way out to just define the low university and give them simply to the vocational schools. So first I want to rebut the government speech just now. First and foremost, we have given our POI on the first to the Prime Minister just now. We said, how would you standardize the CGPK of the 5 years that they say just now? We asked that how would you standardize since all of the university syllabus are very different. We also know that, right? For example, in USIM and USIM, we are more to the integration of Nakli and Akli, so we learn Arabic, Lindi Rosat, and some stuff. But they doesn't learn that. So how can we standardize that? They didn't answer that. Secondly, let's be clear. Efficiency without equity is very injustice. So, and they said just now, they didn't even rebut about the long-term adaptability just now. Government glorifies the vocational training because it matches to the market needs only. It's for the today market only. For like electrician, you go electric, you learn electric you just learn the skills for today. We need to also according to the World Economic Forum 2023, 44% of worker skills will be disrupted within the next 5 years due to the automation of AI. Right now on Proton factory, they already use AI to rebuild the car. So there's no need for the automotive course on the vocational schools. But on the low university, even low university, they teach how to build a car, how we can build the AI, they learn all the theory, even though their hands-on skills is lower than the vocational schools, but it's still better for the long-term purpose other than vocational schools. So this will just only create more jobless vocational schools that just say, and more waste of the government, the taxpayer money. So even universities, even the weaker ones, provide adaptability, critical thinking, problem solving, the ability to reskill. This is why during COVID-19, university graduates, even low university, were far more likely to transition into remote digital jobs, while many vocational workers are left behind. So because they're all hands-on. During COVID-19, we know that everything is done online, kan? Online, kan? So how can they repair a car during the COVID-19? Online? Can you do it online? Obviously not. So next, I will wait the debate. So what has this debate really been about? Government gave you efficiency, but only by sacrificing equity. Government gave you short-term jobs, but not long-term adaptability. Government gave you abandonment, we give you reform.
Oh, wait, you're
Sorry, I have technical just now. I'm sorry. So, what we can say here that what we can see here that we can improve both of them at the same time. But let's can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I will. Okay, I will continue. So, there are hubs of culture, civics life, regional development. A small university created teachers, healthcare workers, local leaders. They even produce research. So even a so-called low-performing university may have contributed to local agriculture, small businesses, and innovation or healthcare trials. Vocational schools cannot do this. They train for existing jobs. They do not create new knowledge. Without universities, a country will always remain a consumer of a foreign technology. So the government also didn't think about what would happen to the low performing universities, the lecturers, the students who choose to study there. What would they do? They would just be crumble to life. This will create more jobless people. Right now, Malaysia is 30.4% of Malaysian is jobless. It's one of the highest in the world. They didn't solve that. They didn't say how to solve that. They only say about adding money, adding money, adding money, adding money. They just want money. They didn't think about anything. So, what I can say is, uh, for today's market, yes, vocational school is relevant, and we can say they want to eat money to that, yeah, add money, money, everything money. But for 5 years, should we add money to vocational school again? Should we? From our position, it is very unlikely. We should we should actually give equality to both of them, giving the same, give same given the same opportunity to both of them to grow and to become better and better. So on the government's the honorable speaker, education is not just about producing workers, it is about building citizens, communities, and futures. Cutting university in favor of a vocational schools betray their missions. On our side, no community is left behind. No opportunity is stripped away, and your future is sacrificed for short-term gains. This is why the opposition proudly reject this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the opposition whip for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, both the government and opposition are being given 1 minute to prepare their reply speech. The time is up. I call upon the speaker from the opposition side to deliver their reply speech. Here.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, and members of the House, the proposition tells us that today we are not cutting off low-performing universities but merely limiting their funding. On the surface, that sounds moderate and even fair, but when we examine it closely, we see it is still deeply flawed. Okay, first and foremost, the limitation does not fix the problem. University may perform poorly for many reasons: outdated circular, weak management, or lack of industry connection. Simply giving them less money does nothing to address these root causes. It doesn't inspire reform. It entrenches failure. Second, these universities continue to serve important role. They educate teachers, nurses, local administrators, and professionals who sustains communities outside the reach of elite institutions. Okay, limiting their resources is not a natural act. It directly weakens the services and opportunities available to these communities. Third, and lastly, the opposition offers a better path to reform, not destruction. Instead of cutting resources, we should attach funding to clear reforms, modernize courses, strengthen teachings, and link universities to industries needed. That is how you improve performance without sacrificing access and fairness. So, when we weigh the debate, it is clear. On their side, we have a policy of limitation that leave weakness untouched and punish communities. And on our side, we have a vision of constructive reform and balanced growth between vocational schools and university. So, for that reason, the opposition is proud to reject this motion that this house would significantly increase funding for vocational schools at the expenses of low-performing universities. Thank you.
Now to conclude, let's welcome the speaker from the government side to give their reply speech. Here. Government, are you
Judges,
ready for reply speech?
yes. Judges, here I stand again as the second speaker from the government side to give my reply speech for today. So what I'll be doing today is three things. I'll be pointing out the weakness, the strength from our side, the weakness from the opposition side, and summing up the points from the government side. So today, we believe that this house significantly should increase funding for vocational schools at the expenses of low-performing uni. So I would like to point out the weak setup case from their side that they did not even explain or give the details to us how they wanted to reform the funding. What is the mechanism of reforming? They did not explain that. Second, I think that they also fail to justify how their long-term goal of economics is going to benefit us, because as stated by my third speaker just now, the clash of points is economy. We talk about how by using this funding for vocational school and not for the low performing universities can actually lead to economy efficiency, because we told you that when we give money, they can actually help the vocational schools to increase skilled technical workers, increase the graduates, as stated by my first speaker. So the third thing that I think the third speaker from their side also actually brings a new material, a new example on something like proton, but I don't think we should accept that because that's a new thing, and I'm not sure if what they are trying to say is actually siding with our side. Okay, so they just tries to argue with us without an end. So we don't see where is this going to end. So the strength of it is that from our side, my first speaker have emphasized on how we have set the GPS for the low performing university. So if let's say in 5 years they did not manage to achieve the GPS, so they are not going. So the money, the funding will go to vocational schools. So I don't think that we are not being unfair here. The strength is that we also wanted to I wanted to reaffirm that today's motion is on increasing the funding for vocational schools at the expenses of low performing universities. So I believe that by doing so, we could actually ensure the economic efficiency as stated by my first speaker. Why? Why would you say so? The summary is that my first speaker have explained that when we actually increase the funding for vocational schools, we are stop wasting the tax paying money that was given from the people, right? We do not waste the limited national resource. We also believe that when there's low performance university, they do not want it to achieve the GPS, then they will actually do not produce good and qualified graduates for workforce, which will actually cause the economic to be not stable. So the outcome is that the taxpayer get better value for money. So next, the second point is that I will sum up about reducing youth and unemployment and job mismatch, because we, as I said just now, that these current industry are searching for employers that for graduates that have the similar skills which they would want. So vocational schools are those schools that we are targeting. And the second point argument is that it enhances national productivity, because when there's a lot of graduates from low performing universities, there might be lack of practical skills. So we are trying to avoid those things so that we can actually at the end of the day solve the urgency of issue to address that we can solve the shortage of skilled workers that is in a critical state right now. So at the end of the day, this will increase the productivity, boost the economy, and help the society. So I'll be ending my speech with one analogy. So judges and members of the floor, let us be honest. Would we want to harvest a plant by putting a lot of effort, pouring waters, giving the fertilizer, but at the end of the day, it will just produce rotten and low quality fruits. And that fruits are actually the graduates from each universities and vocational schools. So this is why we from the government side will stand on today's motion. And with that, I rest my case.
That is, that is all for this round debate session. On behalf of the House, I thank all educators for their assistance. I congratulate all the debaters on their performance. Now, the host will assign all the educators to the breakout room to discuss, while the debaters please remain in this room in the meantime. You can go for a short break, drink some water, or go to the toilet. But please make it short, as there will be some brief feedbacks from the educators.
That is all for this round's invitation. On behalf of the House, I thank
Okay, educators is here. Are you ready to give feedback
Yes,
and result?
yes. I'll be timing myself. So if I exceed the time, please tell me. Okay, I will start my feedback right now lah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'll be layering, or I'll be making my feedback in 5 parts. Okay, the first part I will be giving general feedback. Second, I will be giving feedback towards the government. The third part I will be giving towards the opposition, and I will be giving my own clashes. And lastly, I'll be giving the verdict lah. I'll be giving the verdict right after. Okay. So firstly, for the first part is the general feedback. Honestly, this is a very not very close lah, but it's an above average debate. Not really that I'm not satisfied. I'm still satisfied, but it's not good enough for me to actually be convinced by both sides anyway. So both sides is not empowering each other either way. So both for me, firstly both sides kind of have like different views of the motions. I believe that in the government side, you have different views, you have your different characterization, which the opposition does not really take that. And opposition also have some kind of like false understanding towards the motion themselves, which I will be clarifying in the third part on the opposition side. Same with the government, I'll be clarifying in your part as well. So firstly, both have kind of like different views and understanding, which I do not really convince and I do not really encourage that. Okay. Secondly, B, lack of engagement in terms of arguments. Before that, I really applaud. I'm really surprised that you guys are really brave to actually give and answer POIs. That's very good of you. Congratulations. Keep it up after this, because POIs is very encouraged for you to actually discuss in the debate. Okay, but in terms of engagement in terms of arguments, opposition especially, it's engaging a bit, but it's very linear in terms of rebutting. It's very one-liner. I don't really see like how is the proof of that rebuttal. You are rebutting, but I do not really convinced by that rebuttals, because it's not really proof how exactly in your side you can encounter that problem compared to their side. Okay. Okay, now I'll be moving on towards the second part, which is the government side. Okay, firstly, it is I would say that it is too dangerous for government side to actually approach the mechanism that you're using right now, because I see that it's almost as if you are agreeing with the op stance, because your mechanism is that you're going to have like KPIs, right? Like you're going to give like 5 years for the low performing university before giving the fundings towards the vocational. That's very dangerous, because for me, it should have been that you are actually going for the vocational right away. Like you should have fund the vocational right away, so that you're not narrowing the debate too much. Because by doing this, you're actually narrowing it, and the opposition doesn't really have the way to actually encounter this. Because firstly, you're gonna giving the chance towards the low performing university anyway. So it's the same with the opposition side. If if in this case earlier the opposition is smart enough to actually tell you that you are in their side and your arguments can be valid and exclusive in their side, then your side is not convincing me enough. But luckily the opposition doesn't really point that out, so I still credit, but I'm not really crediting the mechanism, but I'm crediting all of your arguments. Okay, so please be aware of that, because this is kind of like comparing and preferring kind of motions. So you need to prefer your side, your vocational side, instead of like low performing. Okay, so secondly, I want to applaud and I want to really congratulate, because there's a very good layering coming from the government side, a very clear impact coming from you. I can see a very good tiering and impact from the first layer until the last layer. I can see like the final solution and final impact of what you are into, like the economic impact especially. I can see like where you're going. So I applaud you for that. I credit especially in the DPM speech. Okay, third one. you need, as a government, you need more characterization in the first case data, especially in the first speaker, because there's a very vague clarification on what you view as low performing university and what characteristic does vocational have and what low performing university has. It's very vague coming from you, so the opposition side kind of like have like their own definition on that, and you actually have your own definition which you do not really clarify in the first place, so they are going both ways, so it's very difficult for me to actually gauge what's going on right now. But it's actually being clarified in the government way. I actually hear and know what you are actually trying to say or what you clarified in the government and it's supposed to come first, so that you guys can be clarified, the opposition side can be clarified, and me and myself can be clarified. Okay, but still it's a good try from the first speaker. I can still see the case set up. Okay, now I'm moving on towards the opposition. The third part is opposition. Okay, firstly, different understanding of motion. You opposition, you are too focused towards the generalization of all university. Right now, the motion stated about low performing university, but what I heard from your arguments that you are stating the benefits, which is not wrong, but I heard all things like benefits, all of the um like powerful things that universities can do, but that is coming from like high prestige university, which government we also clarified in her speech. So even if you're giving all of that layering, you have good layering on that, you have good theory, you have good impact, but that doesn't really going to be credited because that is going to be happen at the high prestige university, but not on the low performing university, which you actually have to focus for. So I cannot really credit that because that doesn't happen in your case. That it shouldn't happen in your case. It shouldn't happen in your low performing university. That's a good argument, but I cannot credit that because it doesn't really give an impact towards the motion. Okay. Second is good matter. Good, really good, but wrong focus. You should focus more on the low performing university because I don't see like, I can see how university is going to impact the economy, going to impact the industry, but I don't see how low performing university going to impact the economy and industries. That's what you are actually wrong, and that's a vital problem lah. Okay. Thirdly, very linear rebuttals. You do not prove how you actually encounter that. I already stated earlier in the general feedback. Okay, now on to the clashes. I'm running out of time. Okay, into clashes. In terms of mechanism, I can see that the government are giving KPIs and times for the university, which is fine, but I'm not encouraging you to do that. Please go for a hard stance instead lah. Okay, in terms of opposition, I can kind of like see that you want to have like targeted funding or something that you want to like targeting towards like low performing university, but those in the higher ranking of low performing university. I can see something like that lah, but it doesn't really give a good much of convincing. But between you guys punya mechanism, since I don't really see like government punya mechanism is valid in their case, so I'm actually crediting the opposition punya mechanism. Okay, in terms of stakeholder, government stakeholder is much more wider. Firstly, they cater towards the nations because they are focusing about the economy, industries and all. I can see that they are catering towards the society because like employability, students can and when you actually cater towards the student, you actually cater towards their families as well. Okay, and also all of the people around them lah. Okay, and also government also cater towards the employer and the employee and all the interns out there. And lastly, they also cater towards the industry. So there's 4 major stakeholders that the government is actually catering for. Meanwhile, in the opposition side, I see that you are actually catering towards the minorities and towards the vulnerables in the rural areas. You also catering towards a bit of the societies, industry, and also uni students. That's a lot, but it's a very like narrow and it's not impactful. Between government and opposition, I see that government punya stakeholder is much more impactful. So, but as opposition, you narrow, like you are actually focusing towards minorities. So I don't see how they actually impact the nations and all. Okay, third clashes is between impact. I can see the impact on the government side is a more like economic focus and also niche industry focus. So this too is actually a biggest impact towards like in terms if we're going to talk about industries and employability. But in terms of impact in the opposition, so I can see that you are going towards the rural areas. You can what you I can see the path that you're going on. You kind of like want to improve the rural area so that you can actually the least of the like at least you can actually save like the unpolished germs in those rural areas. But there's not much of a big impact if I want to compare to what government give me. Okay. And another impact coming from the opposition that I credit is why options. I credit that arguments because you kind of have like backup options instead of government. Government tak ada backup option because it's very niche, right? But you have a backup option. I credit that. But still, impact is coming more from the government lah. Okay, and lastly, in terms of urgency, I can see urgency on the government because government actually stated about how short on skills based job and yeah, coming from the and it's actually coming from the vocational school lah yang actually fulfill all those base skills jobs. So in terms of urgency, I give credit towards the government. And so in a nutshell, I actually give the verdict the government's towards the government. Congratulations, government. You are winning on the margin jury of 2-0. We are actually agreeing that both of us are actually giving the win towards the government. So that's just all the feedbacks from me. Do you have any questions or any clarification? If there's no one asking, then I assume there's no clarification and questions. If you are dissatisfied, you can just tell me. I will explain and elaborate why I give that verdict. If you want to have personal feedbacks, you can ask me later. But right now, I think we should have a picture first. I'll give back to TYDP.
Okay, thank you for educators. So now, thank you and congratulations for the debaters. So now we will take the formal feature. Give your the best first. Okay, thank you guys. You may leave the room and
Thank
good
you.
luck for next one.